welcome everybody. It's super nice to see all of you here. So today we're going to talk about e-scooters. First of all, if you can tell me which one of you ever tried one of these birds or other ones? All right, nice. That's very good. And who of you ever got annoyed by them just blocking the entrance or the street or the pavement? All right, it's okay. I mean, if you go to Paris or Madrid, you will see that it's a massive problem, comparing to Krakow, of course. So yeah, nice. So e-scooters, this is basically an alternative. It's not an alternative for car. It's basically first and last mile business. So whenever you want to go to your final destination, or you want to go to take public transportation, then this is the time to take one of these. Yeah, obviously this is a new topic, and whenever something happens, like someone got killed by e-scooter, it's everywhere on the news. When hundreds of cars killing people every day, like no one cares because that's normal. But this is just hot topic to tell about, to mention e-scooters, right? So yeah, but in general the business is kind of new. If you look in the past 2 years ago, there was none of them, like especially in Germany because it's fairly new there as well. So before we go, so yeah, e-scooters, quite new business. There are plenty of challenges, and I think this is quite similar for not only our company but also other companies, but I will get to that later. So this is pretty much how it looks sometimes. This is what people do with e-scooters. This one is from Los Angeles, I think, and this is from Paris. So people do all kinds of crazy stuff with them, and that creates a lot of challenges and opportunities for companies like TIR to actually challenge that and to make things better. The good thing is that it keeps changing every single day. So hopefully we'll get to the point where the infrastructure of e-scooters is where it should be. So probably in Krakow, I think there is Bird, there is Blinky, and some other providers. And if you go to other European cities, you will find Lime, Voi, plenty of our competitors. Yeah, as I said, we have similar issues, but then I'll try to walk you through how we are trying to tackle them. Yeah, about TIR, it's not operating in Poland, at least not yet. We'll get there at some point. About TIR, so basically before I move on, a quick introduction. I missed that in the very beginning. So yeah, I used to work for different consulting companies, startups, basically all different setups, also as a freelancer, mainly as product designer, but quite like a couple of months ago, I decided to switch more into research because I feel like there is this research phase that is missing in many companies. And I'm also super into mobility and like moving around kind of business and industry. So, and this is a quite weird story how I actually joined TIR. So I literally created like one pager, like landing page, a year ago, and I used LinkedIn and I messaged the current CEO of TIR saying, hey, do you want to invest in this business like in Poland? Let's launch e-scooters, it's gonna be awesome. And he said, no, but I can offer you a role of UX designer. Just hop in, we will hire you. And okay, maybe later, because they were starting, it was super new. And after a few months, I messaged back Lawrence, that's his name, saying, hey, I think this is the time to join TIR, and this is where it all started. So basically, out of nowhere, and they were not even looking for UX researcher, which is like also kind of interesting. But yeah, that's where we started. Coming back to e-scooters, this is fairly new, and as I said, you couldn't see any of these on the streets, especially not in Germany, because they had this weird law back like 2 months back from today. They were not allowed at all because German law, like Germans, they need to have everything registered, and there was this weird law that you had to put indicators and some like weird stuff on a scooter to put it on the street. Otherwise, it was forbidden. But they changed the law, so it's available at the moment there. And this is the country where we have a headquarters there. So this is also the country where we operate in the like biggest number of cities. Yeah, so this is Tyr. I hope you'll have a chance to enjoy that also in Poland soon. Right now, we are, a bit of numbers. We are operating in 13 countries across Europe and also in United Arab Emirates. And that's in total like 50 cities. We were voted third top startup by LinkedIn. That's kind of cool, I guess. And most importantly, this is it kind of shows like this kind of companies grow. Our founders, they started 1 year ago with 3 people. They were 3 founders, 3 of them. And now we are more than 300 people. So the growth is, it's crazy. And when I joined Tyr, I was the first UX researcher. Right now we are hiring more and more people. Actually, we have 5 openings right now. So the team is growing super fast. And my main goal was to visit as many markets meaning cities where we operate, and get as much knowledge and insights on e-scooters as possible. Apart from that, my goal was also to test our competitors in different environments because they have different scooters, different rules, etc. And also, I was also sent there to have a possibility to test new features on the go. But I will get to that later. So, day research. In the description of this presentation, there was like something like day and night research. Let me explain. So, day research concerns all kinds of stuff around consumer apps. So the app that you can download from App Store and use our scooters, thanks to this app. There is also night research, which is basically focused on operations and how we like the backstage of e-scooter business. But let's start with the day research. Like for this phase, we are kind of facing different type of challenges, and that was also the point of my trips everywhere. So first one was local rules. In some cities, it's not organized at all. You can just do whatever you want. In other cities, there's specific number of spots and scooters you can deploy on the streets. They have parking spots that you cannot just leave it on the street. So this is kind of hard. Then the next challenge was weather. As you can imagine, it's a bit easier to operate in Malaga or Madrid than in Oslo, especially right now. It's kind of icy over there. Maybe not yet, but soon. Pricing. Maybe not the pricing itself, but the perception of price of the service. So again, let's consider Madrid and Oslo. In Madrid, it's kind of expensive. It's like, if I have to, I would use it. But in Oslo, people just they use it every single day for daily commute, and they don't care about cost. Some people I interviewed, they don't even know what's the price because they just keep using it. It's fine. Operating time. So right now, as far as I know, we are operating 24/7 almost everywhere. But back then we had like strict operating hours, and in some cities, for instance in Innsbruck, we need to stop operating at 8 p.m. for some reason, and this applies also to local rules. Other problems. So if you ever been to Germany, you know that they are not the biggest fans of credit cards. It's super hard to pay with your Visa or MasterCard. Therefore, also like students, they cannot even get one. So we had some issues with PayPal, with providing people with possibility to pay for our service. So that's also crazy. Vandalism. I have to say that in some cities, not a problem at all. But if you can imagine in Paris or Marseille, like we are losing 1 or 2 scooters every day due to vandalism, or they just get stolen. In special areas, all kinds of like pedestrian zones, no parking, low speed zones. This is, depending on a city, it might be challenging. So basically what I did, I went there, and my main task was to perform user testing for upcoming features, in-depth interviews to find out, yeah, I'll get to that in a second. So user testing. So I was basically testing either our current app or upcoming features with users from different cities. Yeah, depending on the focus. Here you can, in majority, it's testing of current app. Then, apart from that, so I was kind of doing a mix of user testing and in-depth interviews, because if you can get an attention of someone, then it's super smart to use this time wisely. Yeah, in-depth interviews, we're trying to figure out what kind of trips people do, where do they go, when there's like a bunch of like 10 scooters, why do they pick this one, and how do they actually start their ride with this particular one? Whether it's by just hitting start ride or scanning QR code, it's so much different, so many experiences. And whether they are using other forms of transportation or e-scooters is the main one. It's super, super different. Where and how? So this was kind of guerrilla research. I hate pronunciation of this word, probably I did it wrong. So first, well, if it comes to where, coffee places to make it more comfortable for people, to answer my questions. Co-working spaces, this is interesting because there are people like tech savvy, they are kind of into, yeah, they are into new technologies and especially scooters since it's new. Then remotely, this was this was fun. The number of, so I was going from one city to another, like 10 or 11 different cities. And sometimes I was just sitting in my hotel room doing interview with a guy like sitting 2 streets away because he was more comfortable doing that remotely. And we got some learnings from that, so now we are kind of switching into this direction. Also, parks and benches, so wherever was comfortable for a user, sometimes it took me 1.5 hours to get from one side of Paris to another just to interview someone for 25 minutes. On the other hand, yeah, you have to do that. And how? So as you probably know, if you need an e-scooter, you are usually in a rush, so you don't have like, this is the last resort, or you are almost late for the meeting, so it was super hard to get people's attention on the street. So whenever I tried approaching someone on the street, most of us would say, sorry, I don't have time, but these people, they really didn't have time. So it's kind of understandable. But I figured I joined all kinds of expats in ex-city groups, and I was just reaching out to people there, trying to schedule some interviews and user testing sessions. A second thing is LinkedIn, super useful tool. You have a credibility because people see that you are working for Tier, so they trust you automatically. So I also got some users from there. Instagram, this is funny. I was just like randomly messaging people who I saw that they interacted with Tier profile, and I think I got 5 or 6 people from Instagram. So this is also a very good source. And high utilization areas. So when I was kind of upset that I cannot get any users in City X, I would go to the area where it's kind of hard, especially in the afternoon, to find a scooter. I would take 1 or 2 tiers there, and I was just sitting there. And whenever someone tried to approach them and start their ride, I interrupted and tried to have a conversation with them. But it was not easy anyway. All right. Another part of my on-site research was field research. So as I said, different rules, different cities, different parking areas. So this is the parking area for e-scooters in general in Stockholm. This is from Münster, this cute city in Germany. I will get back to later. And yeah, and this is, for instance, a screenshot from Madrid. And it's these red areas is no parking areas. So basically you cannot park anywhere, which makes it super hard for people to find the proper spot. So, but if you don't go there and see that by yourself, it's kind of hard to remotely determine those zones. So that was also my task. Yeah, competitors. I cannot lie. Like the part of those trips and this whole research was also to find out what competitors up to. For example, in here, in the middle picture, you can see the rear fender covered with something like some protection, and this is exactly what we were struggling with at the time, and we are kind of also struggling with it. because some scooters, they have a rear brake here, so you just step on it to brake, but our latest model is just a rear fender, and the biggest number of repairs was due to broken fender, and this is how they fixed that. Kind of smart, but we are almost there to actually fix it as well. So yeah, that was kind of a overview of my day research. This is just one part, and now more interesting part, the meat part. So the backstage of e-scooter industry. So I was a part of for day research. I was working with our product team, working on consumer app team, and for night research, I was working for a team called Black Ops, basically because they were operating at night. And if you look at Lime or Bird or plenty of other providers, they usually have this model where they don't even hire. You can become a juicer or charger, and you just take scooters from the street, you take them home, you charge them, you put them back. We have a bit different model. So we have our operations, like own people who are doing that for us. And let me explain why. So if we can own the process, we can make sure that the technical condition of all scooters, that everything is fine. Because people, when you just do it as a side job, you just take it home, charge it, and you don't care. Which it also has some upsides, but we wanted to own the process. That's why we decided to go with our own operations. So how did it look like? Yeah, let me just walk you through. But before, this is something that plenty of customers ask me to basically explain, because the lifespan of scooters, especially some the worst models, sometimes it's 5 or 6 weeks, sometimes it's 4. But currently, with the new model, we got to the point that if we exclude people stealing them or just losing them because of some other reasons, then we got to the point where our lifetime span is it's considered to be 24 months, which is something awesome. So we're not creating too much e-waste anymore. Yeah, challenges for Black Ops for the whole operational part. So first of all, as I mentioned, we own operations, but at some level, because depending on a country, sometimes city, we have different operation partners, and well, they have their own processes, they have contractors, subcontractors. It's kind of crazy. Sometimes they also, quite often, they don't even use our app. They have their own app for picking up our scooters. It's integrated to our API. Sometimes there is no control. Next one, weather. I'm not sure if any one of you ever tried scanning QR code when it's dark outside. So yeah, during the night, because that's when it usually happens. And it's also raining, and you need to scan 60 scooters a day. It's a nightmare. I experienced that by myself. It's super annoying. Devices. So coming back to different ops partners, they have different devices. Sometimes they are not performing well. Sometimes they have, that was an issue sometimes, low data allowance. So they were out of internet during the night, which is it shouldn't never happen. Local rules. So yeah, same thing as for consumer app. So especially in city centers, there are places that you cannot really reach by car. So I think I launched this I don't remember the name, but the app that will track your the distance that you traveled on the certain day, and I think it was 15 kilometers during one night shift, because there were plenty of scooters just in the middle of city center, and it was not reachable by car. Crazy. Then, yeah, that was unavailable areas. Competition among drivers. So also, different cities, different rules, but then some drivers, they were paid by hour, some by number of scooters they collected, but in the end, it was just all about, because everything was happening at night, it was all about bringing as many scooters as possible, as soon as possible. So sometimes there are, and the drivers, the process is usually like this. So drivers, they have their areas, there's a dispatch and different areas for different drivers, sometimes 20 drivers or 20 cars per city. City like Stockholm or Oslo, where we have over 1,000 scooters. And well, if you want to finish your shift earlier, you can just ignore your area and just go to the area where you know that there are plenty of scooters in one place, so you don't need to spend too much time. Or sometimes there were people like sub-hiring their friends just to finish their shift earlier, and they will share the pay. So also, like, and you cannot see that remotely. So if you are sitting in our headquarters in Berlin, it's not possible to spot this kind of things. And annoyed citizens. We fixed that already, but at the very beginning, where we introduced new model, every single time that driver would go to the city to deploy scooters at 5 in the morning. And for instance, in Oslo, there is a spot where you need to deploy 20 of them. After scanning QR code of each of them for tracking purposes, they would go off, like the alarm would go off. Every single day at 5 in the morning, 20 scooters. Not the best experience for local citizens, I have to say, but we finally fixed that. But again, this was not only an issue for us and for people living there, but also for drivers, because they were the ones who be blamed for that, and they couldn't do anything about that. Why is it challenging for operations? So we have two types of operations partner, let's call them partners. We have rangers, and their main task is to collect scooters, bring them back to the warehouse, charge them, do the maintenance. I will get to that in a second. But then, if there's a scooter missing for more than 2 or 3 days, we have hunters. They are basically local, like freelancers, going from one place to another, looking for either stolen or lost scooters. And this is the picture from one of our hunters. And if anyone is able to tell me where, there is a scooter in this picture. If anyone can tell me where it is, then he will get 10 free rides with tier. So if anyone has any idea? All right. I guess not. So here. So someone actually put an effort to take one of our scooters there just for fun, or I don't know why. And yeah, you can see the green. Yeah, it's ridiculous, and it happens all the time. So it's really challenging sometimes to get it. And also in Innsbruck, there is this huge mountain quite next to the city, and it's still within our operating area. And people, I have no idea why, there is like 20 or 25 scooters every single day. People just go up there, which makes no sense, because where there is like the huge hill, it doesn't work the way it should, and they just leave them there. So, and we don't know why. But coming back to the process, so I did 7 night shifts, full night shifts from the 8 p.m. till 6, 7 in the morning. Quite fun experience. First phase was a pickup. You just drive around. I just drove around with drivers, picking up scooters, searching for them. Super fun, especially at night in Paris, where we were looking for scooters in places where I would personally never go by myself. Second part was when we collected 50 or 60 of them, taking them back to the warehouse and unloading. Of course, scanning for tracking purposes. This is the whole process. Yeah. And then the maintenance part. So health check, meaning that's the missing part with our other providers, which use juicers or chargers. So freelancers doing their charging part. So health check means you just perform like a maintenance check on a scooter. If something is broken, you mark it as damaged, and then it gets fixed. But sometimes it takes a lot of time. And of course, charging. If you need to plug in 1,000 scooters at the same time, because all drivers, they go back to the warehouse around the same time, it's sometimes from logistics point of view, it's challenging. Then loading vans. So yeah, around 5 in the morning, Loading part starts, so drivers scan all scooters which are ready to be deployed, and they just pack them into the cars. Yeah, it takes usually around 35 minutes. Sometimes in some cities it's super nice to see the whole community, like there are drivers from different companies or some individuals, and they are working super hard, like together, like they could just load their vans and then go to the city, but they are helping each other in a way that is like it's a small family. It was super nice to see that. And then drop-off. The thing I mentioned before with tripping off alarms, which doesn't exist anymore. Yeah, you go from one drop-off point to another. You take scooters out of the car, you just place them there. You compare, we have a kind of a picture showing how they should be placed in certain places, because sometimes, yeah, you can see scooters just standing there in the middle of the street or pavement. It shouldn't be this way. That's why we also instruct our drivers how it should be performed. Yeah. And yeah, they have specific guidelines, so they usually follow them, usually. But this is the state of things from July, August, and September. Right now, we are also introducing some new thing, but I cannot tell you what kind of thing. But we are switching from vans to cargo bikes to make it more like eco-friendly, sustainable. So it's gonna be a bit better, and it's much easier for drivers because if they have a bike, they can just go wherever they want, unlike with a car. Okay. Since I spend a lot of time with drivers, which is funny because sometimes, like you can imagine that people working as drivers in certain city in certain country, they were usually they were immigrants coming from like different country. Not always, but usually. So the language barrier was there. I speak a bit of German, so that was fine, but I happened to spend 7 hours of night shift with 2 Spanish drivers in Madrid, and they didn't speak a word of English. And I thought this is gonna be a disaster because I will not get any feedback, and yeah, the worst night ever. But it turned out that since we cannot really communicate and spend time talking about bullshit, I just focused on their process, the way they used up, and the things that could be improved. And this was the most insightful night I spent in from all different cities. So totally differently than I initially assumed. So this is with drivers. I spent some time also with local operation managers, so city managers or operations or maintenance managers, to find out what could be improved around the warehouse, storing batteries, charging, and managing drivers. So super insightful as well, because they have, and each city has different problems. What I found, but they also, it was funny to see how they managed to fix their own problems. So unloading vans and loading vans, this is kind of time consuming because each scooter, it weighs 22 kilos, kind of a hassle. But they figured out a different approach in Innsbruck and in every city in Austria, because they have the single operating partner there. So they bought extenders and they would just charge scooters while they were still inside of a car. I think they would normally save around 1.5 hours per night. So super awesome to see how they managed to with that kind of workarounds. So yeah, and the summary of this whole research. So what we actually accomplished is we spotted local city-related issues with TIR related to business zones. For instance, we got a lot of around business zones. Business area is basically where you can go with an e-scooter. You cannot go outside. But they were mainly determined in each city just by okay, I think this is good. This is within the city, inner city, it's fine. But then sometimes they were excluding super nice spots for users. For instance, a city a seashore in Oslo, and everyone would like to go there, but they couldn't, and you cannot figure it out without going there and talking to users. We also tested plenty of competitors in different markets to see what they are up to. The things I said before. Super insightful as well. New features on the go. This is as I mentioned, I used to be more into product design and I switched into user research. And all product designers I was working with, they were psyched that they can just prepare mockups on Tuesday afternoon, and on Wednesday morning, I'll be doing some testing, and they will get results from that the day after. And this was super. I wish I could be in their place because I didn't have this kind of setup like ever. So this probably was super nice. Yeah, we discovered 4 solid personas of our users, where the majority is like within one persona. I cannot share you obviously the type of personas, unfortunately. And we also implemented plenty of improvements, especially for this operation app. So I was super psyched that like in previous companies, we were doing releases like every 1-2 weeks, sometimes once a month, depends. But within this Ranger app, we release every single day. Like it's literally every single day based on the feedback we get, because also we have users using it every single day. They are kind of forced to use that every single day. Yeah, and we also learned about differences between smaller and bigger cities. You would probably assume that it's much smarter to start this service in a capital city where it's much like there's a bunch of people getting good salary that would probably use it. Not necessarily. So there are some things, disadvantages and advantages. So for big cities, of course, it's nice because there are like more possible customers, but also they have more strict rules. For example, we stopped our service in Lisbon because they had to, they were kind of forcing providers to set up virtual parking zones, and this is kind of against the free floating model. So many rules. This is understandable because they need to somehow manage that with, I think in Lisbon there are 8 companies, so it must be super tough for them. Also in big city, negative attitude. So if you see 30 scooters on the pavement and it's blocking your way, you can get annoyed. I understand that. So this is a disadvantage of running this service in big city. And distance challenges. So in one of our cities, we had a warehouse 30 kilometers from a city center. That's like every single day going back and forth, like extreme hassle. And then if it comes to small city, and this is kind of nice story. There's this city I told you about, before, I mentioned before, called Münster. It's a small town near Dortmund in Germany. And it's so-called German Amsterdam. Why? Because they have 2.6 bicycles per inhabitant. And you would probably assume that it's just ridiculous to run e-scooter service there where everyone is biking, everyone has at least 2 bikes. But it's not. It was a great idea, and we have one of the biggest utilization rate over there because everyone is using that. And what is the advantage of running e-scooter service in this kind of city? So first of all, you have no competitors, so it's easier. They don't get to choose. They just need to, if they need an e-scooter, they will go for hours. It's easier to collaborate with cities because they are not tired about everything around e-scooters. They want to cooperate because they think that it will make their city more attractive, which is true. A bit more chilled out environment, also coming back to cooperation with local government, and smaller community. So if you decide to go drunk and crazy and just start throwing scooters into a river in Paris or Lisbon, probably someone will join you or someone will start throwing scooters at you. There is a huge chance of that. But in smaller towns, smaller cities, the community is quite small. So if you either steal or you do something bad about scooters, either your friend or your neighbor will notice that. And this is a no-go zone for people. And again, coming back to Münster, so far they didn't lose any single scooter. So no stolen scooters, no damaged scooters, at least not by citizens. So yeah. Then some stats. So during this 2.5 months trip. I visited 10 cities, Oslo, Paris, Copenhagen, Stockholm, and many others, Zurich, Vienna, Munich. In total, 24,000 kilometers traveled, and 56 customers user tested or interviewed, and 7 full night shifts. I hated night shifts at the beginning, but now I kind of miss them. It's a great experience. And now I have some stuff for you, some videos. This is the first time. This is the person he used e-scooters. This is his first approach to e-scooter, and you would probably, as like most people assume, that it's super easy. It's just like how hard could it be just to run it? But let me play the video. There we go.
Let me see. I'm starting the run. I hope that somehow connects.
Okay. So what happened now?
Here you go. I don't know, completely lost.
Okay. So what he did is he had no idea that you need to kickstart scooter and like push it in order to start your ride, and he thought that this is more like a normal scooter or motorbike, and he had absolutely no clue how to proceed. Probably plenty of people would just give up. So the conclusion is that maybe it's a good idea to explain that you need to kickstart. And the second one, this was kind of awkward, but also there's a bit of learning there.
I like the UI and the UX of this application.
Okay.
I'm a big what?
So
I'm blocked.
essentially, he was super, like we spent, I think, over 1 hour talking about Tyr. He's our super user, and he loves the app, but his account got blocked and 3 different credit cards didn't help. For some reason, he was like, we put him in the category of financial frauds, so his account was blocked because of that. And the reason for that was he was doing too many rides. So we assumed it's like, this is the automation behind that, but we assumed that there is something wrong. And I have a couple of use cases for you. So this one, there are 5 scooters over there, and this is from Oslo, and each individual of them was hidden inside of there is this like corporate area with consulting, the Deloitte, different companies in one place. And what happens there? Utilization rate in Oslo is so high that people basically take scooters, they commute to work using e-scooters, and they just take them inside with them. They just finish the ride and they just drag them into the office just to make sure that they will have one after work, because if they don't, they will probably have to use public transport, which is like if you switch from metro to e-scooter, it's kind of hard to go back because it's like from point A to B. You don't need to go anywhere. So it happens, but it happens not only in Oslo. It happens in many cities where people use it for daily commute. Second use case, like how people figure out by themselves how they can use our app in a bit different way. So currently we don't offer a possibility to reserve a scooter, not yet at least. So people figured that if they are really in the scooter, if they are like I need to go somewhere, I have a meeting, I really need to go somewhere, and I need to make sure that I have one in front of a building, they would sometimes just start the ride, risking that someone will take it just to make sure that it's blocked for them. And it happens quite a lot of time. So yeah, they just figure it out. And this is a fun one. So there is a guy, he's a freelancer in Copenhagen, and he works from home. And he said he orders food every single day from local food places, restaurants. But he figured that, I think it's not Uber Eats exactly, it's the similar service, but it's different name. I don't think Uber Eats available in Copenhagen, but he figured that the delivery fee is 6 euros, but if he takes our scooter, he goes there and picks it up by himself, he will pay around 4. So he's saving around 60 euros, of course, Danish crowns, but per month. So like, we would never think about this kind of use case in the past where we were launching the service there. So yeah, as you can see, super busy time. Right now we are, as I mentioned, we are hiring more researchers. So we are looking for not only researchers, we are also looking for product designers in Berlin. But if it comes to researchers, we're looking for human factor researcher, market researcher, and someone like me, so UX researcher. And we are switching a bit more into remote studies, because there is much more value in interviewing people while they are sitting on a couch comfortably drinking coffee, rather than sitting in a loud space in Starbucks. So, and also with possibility to test new features on the go. So yeah, so just for the record, if anyone of you is interested in working for e-scooter company in Berlin, just, there are openings there. Yeah, and I think this is it. If you have any questions, I would be more than happy to answer them.